sacred. Every once in a while, you encounter an artist whose work doesn't just rhyme, it reverberates. An artist whose voice doesn't just project into a mic, it pierces straight into the soul. An artist whose presence doesn't just entertain the room, it elevates the room. Today, we are graced with that kind of spirit. Today, we are in the presence of that kind of an artist, Aubrey Jones, better known as the Mr. J. Now, let me be clear. He is a keeper of the culture, a guardian of the pen, and a storyteller for our time. His pen bleeds truth. Truth about struggle and survival, truth about love and loss, truth about the communities that raised us, embraced us, and sometimes tried to break us. And yet he stands unbroken, a living testament that art is not just creation, it is redemption, restoration, and resurrection. What sets Mr. J apart is his intention. He writes like he is carving something eternal, something to be remembered. Every verse is a record, every line is a legacy, every bar is a building block, brick by brick, for the generations rising behind us. He knows that the MC's purpose has never been simply rhyming words to the rhythm. It is to bear witness to what we have endured, what we've conquered, and what we still dare to dream. From the page to the stage, Mr. J has a gift. He makes us all feel seen. He gives language to emotions that we struggle to name. He transforms silence into sound, pain into poetry, and fleeting moments into movements that last. In a world that too often undervalues depth and substance, his voice is a reminder. Bars still matter. Words still heal, and yes, the pen still reigns supreme. And family, the timing of this conversation couldn't be more perfect because on September 19th, Mr. J is releasing his brand new album, Before TikTok, a project that reminds us that hip hop existed long before the trends, well before the algorithms, and well before that doom scrolling even began. It's about roots, foundation, and the pure artistry that cannot be manufactured. Tonight is so much bigger than an interview, y'all. This is a celebration. This is about handing flowers to a man who has devoted his life to the craft, the culture, and to the truth. This is about honoring a poet whose lines are destined to outlive us, all because they are rooted in something timeless: honesty. So, scholars, lean in, sit with this, respect this, receive this. It is my absolute honor to welcome to the Hip Hop Scholar Podcast the wordsmith, the poet, the MC, the griot of our generation. We have Mr. J. Here we go.
Peace
Here
and
we go.
blessings. Live, we live.
There
Now, I
we
just
go.
want to say thank you for the beautiful introduction. For those who are just getting to know me and those who know me from, the journey. So I appreciate that. And, your words are beautiful. And I'm going to try to keep living in that same spirit that you just projected. So I appreciate it.
That's right, as you should, young sir. Definitely appreciate you being here. You doing well today?
I'm good. I'm great. Everything was good during the day. I think everything's going to be peachy tonight. So we all right.
That's right. That's right. We have a lot of people in the live audience today here in the Riverside as well as in the YouTube checking out the chat.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Everybody's definitely ready to hear because BR is in the building. We got Baton Rouge in the building.
225. But don't forget the 22504 because that I-10, we connected. So it's
There you,
good.
there you go. There you go.
It's
Don't forget
good.
that 318 also in the
No,
building.
we up top. We up top. But guess what? I can't forget the people in 337 too because we coming live to Lafayette next Saturday at the Mike Check reunion show. So it's gonna be nice over there, atmosphere. So I'm happy.
Oh yeah, I know it's going to be an awesome show. You have been performing for a number of decades, even. Like you are not just a writer, but you're also
Yeah.
a performer, right? So I mean, you're going to be
True.
giving that gift of veteran performance to the audience. How long have you been performing your art?
We in closing on 20 plus years at this point. I'm not going to pinpoint it, but let's just say around first performance was actually at the show that you attended with that picture we talked about, the Mike Check 2001, the battle series. And so although my first company, Pinnacle Production Group, actually organized that battle tournament with 32 MCs. We had a intermission where we had some live performances, and so
Yeah.
one of the guys who performed, Jew Kane, he let me spit a verse because we used to. That's who got me in the game. So really, that first concert, first major event, in New Orleans, French Quarter back in 2001. So yeah,
Oh
you do the
man.
math.
Yeah, I mean a
Yeah,
classic, definitely classic, right? And you had to be there. You don't have the cell phones. You didn't have the social media there. Like it was the essence of being in the environment. That I hope that this podcast lends to the audience and to those who watch that music is to be felt. It's not just a post. It's not just a
yeah,
repost. It's to be felt, especially by the artists themselves, especially when you create something, it's sacred. And so when you do that, in your youth and even now as a seasoned performer, a seasoned lyricist, it's with intent. Like you're targeting your lyrics to ensure that you're making that impact to your audience.
definitely. There was that film back in the day called Rhyme and Reason. That's exactly what it is. Everybody in that film, although it wasn't the show, which I love that one, but Rhyme and Reason, everybody was just hungry. They were in their element. And when you listen to, the passion from those MCs, from the most famous to the least famous, you can just feel, that they were really about the music, and they were on the journey, although some of them wasn't getting all what they deserved at the time. But, you know, it never changes. And that movie came out in 95. So 95, 96, yeah. So it's the same if you're about that.
That's right. That's right. The 90s. What a time to be alive.
Whew.
So, what I want to add to that, right? You brought up rhyme and reason. And so, the question I ask my artists is when did you fall in love with hip hop? Was it that show? Was it a particular song? Even thinking about the early 90s, even the 80s, I mean, chronicling our generation, when did you first fall in love with hip hop?
It was around 85. There's actually a song on my album. It's a skit, but it's me speaking, and you can hear other elements involved about just my story of falling in love with hip hop. It's called It's Something, but that something is hip hop. Didn't really know it didn't have a name back then. But Slick Rick and Dougie Fresh, the show, the beatboxing, and them going back and forth. And I mean, the song is like 6, 7 minutes long, but
Hmm.
it never stops. It's just a constant build, and we would just dancing to it. In the back of my grandmother's house, because they wouldn't play hip hop in Baton Rouge. We would go to New Orleans and listen to Q93 at night. So after 8, after 9, we all in the back got the radio on, and I mean they basically playing the same songs every night. And from there, it just got bigger and bigger. So as a 5, 6 year old, you don't know, you just know like this sounds cool. My older cousins, they going crazy, and they're like, if you ain't on this, and then they had the shoes and all that, the Adidas,
Yeah.
and just those real throwback shoes with the sweatsuits.
Hmm.
So yeah,
Hmm.
like because the movie Breaking came out like right around that time.
Yep.
So that's like the two elements. Like I went to see Breaking in Baton Rouge at a theater on Plank Road, and so for my old heads, they know Plank Road actually used to be popping in North Baton Rouge, and there was like a shooting out there back then. So I'm like, man, it was excited, but I never forget. Like I went to the movies with my parents because I think it was PG, but we went at night, and it was packed. I
Hmm.
mean, there was no movies. I think that might have been the first large release hip hop movie. Cause I mean, Crush Groove really wasn't that big, I don't believe. But Breaking, and they
Yeah.
had two of them, right? Breaking two,
Yep.
it was nothing like it. So that's when I fell in love with hip hop between those, the show, Breaking movie, LL, I'm bad, jumping off the car, and Run DMC. That's me, all day,
Oh man, the pillars of hip hop, man. When you brought up
all day.
Dougie Fresh and Slick Rick, Slick Rick even coming out with his own album now.
It's out.
So
It's nice. And the
like
movie.
so, and that becomes my charge for artists like yourself to be in that pinnacle, to never stop doing hip hop. There's no reason to say that you retire or you're too old, or even being too young. Shout out to your parents for supporting that, to
Yeah,
give
yeah.
you that experience, to take you from BR to New Orleans, to be able to experience those things. Your family, even to make certain that you had that cultural phenomena going on right at the cusp of it growing into this world that it is becoming.
It's a beautiful thing, and I was there for it, so it's good. And guess what?
Mm-hmm.
The year after Katrina, when they brought Jazz Fest back, it might have been the second year, either '06 or '07. I
Mm-hmm.
had the honor of not only scheduling an interview and interviewing Dougie Fresh, but Dougie brought me on stage. I didn't rap, but he was Dougie is cool is a fan. Like all so Dougie was there. Slick Rick couldn't come overseas, but he was scheduled and he
Mm-hmm.
didn't make the trip to Jazz Fest. But Big Daddy Kane, Special Ed was there. What I didn't know, the booking agent for the interview was actually Dougie Fresh's brother, who is his DJ. So they keep it in the fam and they tight and they cool. And so they're like, hey, you can be here at this time, meet me over here. We gonna take care of you. And they held their word and even more. And just like, hey man, we gonna party. We here for this. You know, you part of the city. We in your city. Come on out with us. Take it in. And so that's probably my biggest just memory. Hip hop, which pre-camera phone. Camera
Right.
phones really wasn't popping, so I was just trying to get the interview. I got the interview, I got the audio, but just the whole, the vibe. That whole afternoon, we were just kicking it, and they were cool with it. It wasn't no guns, nothing funny. No bodyguards, no paparazzi. It was just them. Like I said, Kane was cool. Dougie Fresh and his brother showed love. Special Ed, good brother, and so I just appreciate that. I seems like a lot of more of the old school artists are just more in tune with just being real and personable with the people. That's my experience, and so
Mm-hmm.
every time I see them, it's good. I really appreciate them.
And that speaks volumes of their legacy, right? Being legends. And now, we have a new set of old school, right? The
Yeah,
new school right now is we have these 2020. So our old school are more vintage, more classic type. But, again, the coolness of it all, the legacy of making certain that, everybody is respected. Come up on this stage and represent who you are. And everybody had to pay attention. You couldn't be on your phones. You couldn't be texting. There was nothing like that. You were either there or you were square, as
that's
they
it.
say in the film.
That's it. You
Yeah.
got to be in the moment. Yeah. So we're gonna bring that energy back when we hit Lafayette. And so the cool part is I got I say my brothers and my sister, because my sister is Tori the Poetic Beauty, who she's on fire in Baton Rouge, and she's always showed me love. I mean, we connected years ago,
Mhm.
just on a poetry tip, but just lyrically, we've been trying or plotting on a dual album for like a minute. And so I was telling her when I met her, I was like, "Hey, the lady's about to take over. Like, get ready. Like, what we gonna do?" And so we never really struck that match like we needed to in the studio. But far as
Mhm.
live on stage, she got it. And then ironically, my brothers who were all at the first and second mic check are on the bill with me. And so it's awesome. J Double is gonna be there from Tiger Woods crew and J Squared. So that's my little brother,
Mhm.
who battled Bionic Brown, who actually won the whole thing. So he's on point with his caliber, writing freestyle and also recording and performing. Lyric Kill's gonna be there. The Mic Check 2002 champion. You Phonetics representative. I also got B Nasty, aka Crummy, producer extraordinaire slash MC. And so that they're gonna be together rocking some songs, and B Nasty gonna do his thing. And then I got Proper English. That's my brother from the Effortless crew out of Baton Rouge, but also he's the one that lost by 1 point to Lyric Hill in Mic Check 2002. So although lyrically everybody was sharp and hungry back in the day, everybody's still in the journey and is respectful. And so it's a brotherhood. So, I tell people every day, they're like, hey, you in a fraternity? Nah. My frat is hip hop, if that's what we're gonna call it. Cause I got real brothers, through the musical journey. Either recording, performing, promoting. You had to be there. You gotta hit those streets and hit it hard. And so it was a lot of stories that's untold that, you know, we all share. But it's just gonna be a lovely night in Lafayette. And then we're gonna double back and you know, hit Baton Rouge with the Moon Flows, with Proper English and Be Nasty. And then my brother Truth Universal coming out too. So it's just a good time. You know, I've been looking at dates, people dropping new music, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna let them have the summer. But you know,
There you
September
go.
to June, Mr. J coming through. So 919, we gonna be all right.
I know that's right. Shout
Yeah.
out to everybody that you just shared out. You know, I appreciate you shouting out everyone. You know, and again, that talks
Yeah,
a
yeah.
lot about your environment, and you're supporting your support, and it's reciprocal. That reciprocity of everybody being there together, growing together, and making this last. You know, that lasting legacy of what hip hop truly is. So I want to talk about you though. This podcast is about Mr.
Okay, let's
J.
go.
We want to dig into the mind of Mr. J to see exactly how you tick and talk without this TikTok, right? And before
Yeah,
TikTok.
definitely.
So with that, you know, you talked about performing. So which do you prefer? Do you prefer being a performer? Do you like to write your rhymes and then get into the studio? Do you like the freestyle cipher? Like, what is your preference? And if you could rank those uh, concert performance in the booth or the freestyle cipher, like what's for you though, Mr. J? What you like?
I'm gonna say booth first, just because at this point in life, that's the therapy. You're right. And I didn't even know it being a younger man that really got me through, you know, just letting out that raw energy, you know, unfiltered, from the page to the booth. But from there goes the stage. So I would say, you know, the stage would be second. But in my life, you know, like DJing is like a close third. That was actually my first love. And so the cool part is this other show on Lafayette, I'll be the resident DJ. I was a host, but I'm gonna be the resident DJ too. So we're gonna get real live. But you know, like performing is really cool. You know, it's a drug. I was at a point in my life when I was really you know, chasing, I would say chasing the dream and just being my own machine, whether if I'm not recording, I'm rehearsing. If I'm not rehearsing, I'm performing. And if I'm not performing, I'm either doing interviews or just networking, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then you keep running that cycle. And so when you do a great live show and the people reciprocate that love and the energy that you give out, that's like the I can't even describe it. It's a gift. I'm not gonna even call it a drug, but it's one of the greatest gifts ever, and it's addictive, you know. So like you get off that stage and like, gosh, like I don't know, it's like skydiving, I guess. The equivalence of skydiving would put it to that effect, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, you have to come down from that high. Like I recall having a day job, doing a show, getting off stage at 1 or 2, and like you're trying to come off the high and you're like, man, I gotta go to work at 8. Like, you know, it's like the 8 Mile movie, you know, because they're like,
Yeah.
what you gonna do after this?
Yep.
Going to work tomorrow, you know? So you're Superman at night and you Clark Kent during the day. And so, you know, I think you've heard that many times, you know, from independent artists. We're not going to say just underground, but just indies, you know, you to maintain and pay bills and things like that, you know, you got to be a professional, have some type of steady income. Ain't nothing wrong with that, you know, and you can still rock at night and weekends, however you're going to do it. So, yeah, you know, that performance thing is, whew, it's a high. It when it's done right, and when you know everything comes full circle. But I like recording because it's like painting a canvas,
Yeah.
you know. And for me, you know, I'm a writer, so a lot of times to see the beauty from going from either the pen and the pad or even like on you typing on the computer or the phone,
Mm-hmm.
and then you find the right beat to you know, mesh with that to make the words come to life. It's yeah, that's a beautiful thing for me.
And that too is your gift to give
Yeah.
back. So I like how you gave that analogy of being on a stage like skydiving, because that air, you know, the breathing of the air, it's limited, and so you have to capture, you know, that breath, that inhale and exhale in such minute moments, and then that high of that adrenaline is going. But being able to accept that gift of the audience, resonating with your lyrics, right? But prior to that, that writing of those lyrics, putting it together to put this show on, I think that's where, if we're gonna use the drug analogy, I think that's that pusher right there, is when you're writing those lyrics, that pen to pad.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's digital for you. Are you a pen to paper? Are you digital writing? Like, how you
Number
doing that?
number one, number one, and I'm going to tell on myself. You just making me spill all my guts today, but I came up just writing on all kinds of paper all the time, and
Okay.
so that's a connection with my choral background. So so as I'm DJing, I was in high school learning how to sing because I needed a class to make an A in, and I thought it was easy, and so I learned how to read music in theory and some piano stuff for my last 2 years of high school. And
Mm-hmm.
so looking at how the notes are placed and the breaths and just everything, I apply that same concept to writing music. And so it's easier for me to actually memorize those songs that I actually pen versus the typing part. And so, yeah, a lot of the newer material, it's just a drill. Like I might type, but it's a different feeling when I actually get that pad because I got it down now. Like I use legal pads. I don't use regular like paper because I know the way I write, my 16s fall perfectly on
Mm-hmm.
one side of legal paper. It's crazy. And so when I am performing, I can see where I place those words. Like it's invisible. I use the yellow pad. I'm looking at one right now. The yellow pad with the greenish lines. And so it's just a surreal experience. But that's my thing. I need to be able to see, that placement, one line after the next one.
And that hand to brain connection there too. I mean, that's science there. Where you're
Definitely.
able to, whenever you're writing, it connects to that brain, and that's with that pen. It's gonna be to that paper. And so I want to show the audience that this is not just a one hit wonder. Everybody, this is a man with a full discography. We have record after record, decade after decade, and in the pre-production, he was sharing where his first published record, which is here, the Effortless, I believe, is the one you
Yeah,
shared.
down south hip hop space music. This
Okay.
album was intentionally recorded to actually fill the void of the Hot Boys breaking apart, and it was supposed to come out in 2002, and it really wasn't released until between 2003 2004 when we actually toured it. But four brothers coming together, Proper English being one, production by OT, and J Double coming in as the cleanup hitter. That's one of the best produced records or albums I've ever been a part of. OT is a phenomenal producer, and lots of relationships, stem from that time. So it was awesome. We did exactly what we wanted to do. It features the Nappy Roots, also Six Shot and Bust Down New Orleans, a New Orleans legend, and so we almost had Ti on that record too. But it was a lot. I mean, we had records for radio, we had records for the underground, and we had new stuff. So that's why it's the down south hip hop space music. And so, tell a friend. That's the one.
This is the one. This is the first one. This is what broke that ice. And looking again at this full discography, hip hop family, this is a seasoned veteran when it comes to this thing called hip hop, where it's not stuff, it's not fluff. This is real lyricism prior to there being AI, even before Google. I mean, this is from the brain and bringing that pain to that pen and paper. And then being able to share that on the stage and all. You can find this on Bandcamp, mrj.bandcamp.com. You'll see it in the description in YouTube and Spotify. And you definitely got to check it out. And I know this album, this is the one that's coming out before TikTok. And I was wondering about this
Yeah,
picture here. Tell us
yeah.
about this photograph that you have for your next album coming out on September 19th.
So this photograph is actually a mini Polaroid picture that my two sons received from their grandparents on Christmas. Wow, 10, 11 years ago. And so that's my youngest son. He might have been 4 at the time. And so, it kind of looks like he's playing with a turntable, but he has the headphones, and he's just exploring music from a very innocent perspective, right? And so, it just reminded me of everything that happens when we were young and how we discovered music. Also wanted to bring some pictures of them around the same age group. That's him actually at Disney. I forgot where it's outside the what's they called, the Tree of Life is behind that, but
Okay.
they let you play. It's supposed to be Morocco, I believe. And so, these are just random pictures of them exploring music. And then my oldest son, he's got a chance to visit the new and improved WBRH studio, radio 90.3 studio that was rebuilt at Baton Rouge Magnet High School. And that's where I learned how to DJ at. I started working there for pay when I was 15 years old. And so just him getting behind the board and emulating who he thinks a radio DJ is and what they do, like that speaks volumes. And so yeah, just my babies. The music is for the, like Wu Tang, it's for the babies. It's for future generations, but also, a picture can capture 1,000 words. And so, when I sit with music that I'm interested in for the first time, I feel like that picture. I just want to zone out to it and just take it for what it is and, have an experience. So that's what it's about. We had to find records before TikTok. And, it wasn't just given to us on our phone. You actually had to go digging for the good stuff. So yeah, that's what we bringing back, or that's what we're referring to.
Yeah, had to go digging in those crates. You had to go
Yeah,
actually go find it and go look for it, looking in magazines. I mean, I talk about that in a few content podcasts where this streaming service allows for people to be able to truly capture a lot of different kinds of music. But back in our day, and I want to scroll through this discography as I'm speaking because
yeah,
this is no easy feat to be able
it's
to
work.
do analog type of recording. This is blood, sweat, tears, time, effort, and then having to redo when things may mess up if it's not perfect.
Got to do the whole
Having
thing.
features come in, it's a very methodical, complex uh, way of being able to produce the music that may be not lost, but I don't think it's appreciated these days as to how much easier it is to put music out. But what I also
Oh
want to
yeah,
make note here, just as I shared in the introduction, is that you are, again, your music is not just for one generation. You are making certain that it lasts and making certain that the future generations, as your sons, shout out to your babies,
yeah,
that
yeah.
they also have that firm foundation in what hip hop, because hip hop is truly something that is a cultural staple in communities, that is a coping mechanism, it is a teaching tool, and it's therapy, and it's so many more things. It's this molecular structure that can grow and be something that whatever it is that you need it to be, that's what it creates, and that's the beauty of what hip hop creates for artists, for the listener, for everyone that can get involved, the visuals that go with that. I want to ask you some questions too that go along with your artistry and your intent as an artist yourself. So I know
Sure.
you said your sister was a poet, and I think that rap and poetry go hand in hand. I think they are in the
Yeah.
same lineage of putting those rhymes together into a rhythm. So how does that poetry, or how do those rhymes shape your journey into hip hop, and how do those roots still influence you, and will they still influence the way that you write today?
So, yeah. So my sister, that's my sister through music. So they're not my birth sister Val, but Toy, it's my sister in the rhymes.
Your
Um,
sister, blood is blood, and
yeah,
and
yeah.
and, and, and
Like
not
she
that's your
she she
sister.
she gets it. Like she's one I
Mm-hmm.
got, like I call my top tens, and then you got like the expansion family, and so she in that top
Yeah.
10, like she gets it, and I get her, and so I'm always cheering for her success, and she's like cheering for me, and like even when I'm on the bench, she's like, you got to get back in there. What you doing?
I know
You
that's
you know
right.
you got the ink, right? So let's go.
Mhm.
But far as poetry is concerned, I got deeper in my understanding of poetry like in college. So I went to the University of New Orleans, and so yeah, that's a what they call a predominantly white campus, but also
PWI. Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's in New Orleans. So New Orleans is a black city, culturally rich. I learned a lot in African American literature class. I was a communications major, so I took a lot of whole bunch of French, whole bunch of English. I'm just trying to figure it out. I didn't want to read any more Shakespeare, right? So I
Mm-hmm.
got this big book I'm looking at. It's on my shelf right now, and it's an anthology of like just African American literature. And I tell you, Langston Hughes stuck out to me like a sore thumb, but it was sweet. And I read some Langston stuff in high school, right? Because my English teacher, the last two were like black, and they were just like, and I went to all white school too. So, but they were like, "Hey, you better pay attention." I'm like, "All right," but cool. So Langston stuck out back then in the middle of all the Shakespearean stuff they were feeding down our throats. But this
Mm-hmm.
class was all about black people in America, especially in the Renaissance and before, right? Because like
Mm-hmm.
we learned about gospel and hymns, gospel hymns, right?
Yeah.
And so we know those are songs, but they come from the soul and the pain and the struggle of our ancestors. So when Langston comes out, Harlem Renaissance with his movement, his guys, that really stuck out because I'm in this class at the same time when I'm getting better, improving with my rhyme style. And so I really go deep into that. So I have a documentary coming out, hopefully early next year to really be ready
Oh,
for the
yeah.
masses. And so it's called Live from Government Street. Government Street is where
We
Baton Rouge
are.
High is located, where the radio station is in that picture. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's where, my musical beginnings really began, right? And so the poetry is just all infused in, my journey, as a MC, learning how to just write the right way, meters and stanzas and just everything that comes with that, figurative language. And
Mm-hmm.
it sounds like we're in the English class, but I'm an educator too.
There
So
you go.
I was on point when I taught English to young people, and I'm still dealing with it to this day. So yeah, the poetry is special, and so the next step after this documentary is going to be my book. But the music gets in the way. That's the fight. The music gets in the way of the actual black and white book because it's not as appealing, very tedious. So, but I'm motivated. I got to get it out there so I can get, on those stages with those other folks really doing it. But it's actually a poetry collection. You don't see a lot of that coming out now, and that's what attracted me to Toy's work because Toy was releasing small books, at her
Mhm.
shows, and I'm like, oh, okay, this is what you're doing, So I'm thinking about I'm putting this big book together, and she's just like, I'm hitting them with small hits, 20 poems here, 10 poems there, and they really hitting. I think she was really like hot when even before current president got in office the first time, but she was hitting those issues politically. I'm just like, gosh, that's
Mm.
really what it's about. So a lot of times in poetry, you actually have more freedom to just speak,
Yeah.
versus in the music, people want to hear what they want to hear. Poetry is just words.
That spoken word, that magic. I gotta get Toy on this podcast. Like, please,
I got
I
you.
put that out there to get her on here to share that because again, being a writer and I want to say that music isn't getting in your way. I think that's just your superpower. I think you just have to
Ooh,
learn how to try to
okay.
control that. That X-Man who has the lasers coming out of his eyes. And what does he do? He has to put those sunglasses on. Like you can't really control it, but you have a way that you can try to, manage it. And I think that's what the music's doing for you
Okay.
when you're writing your book. So you got to channel that in some kind of way. Plus, this multidisciplinary way of bringing your words and bringing your artistry through the documentary, through the music, through the shows, through the poetry, that is very multifaceted. And I don't think you can turn one off to enhance another. You got to find a way to balance everything. That's an X-Man. This is the laboratory here. I am Professor X. And
I
so
claim
letting
it.
you know that you got to definitely figure out how to manage your superpower, Mr. J.
Okay, I'm to make you happy. I'm right there. My school that I'm administrator at, which is an elementary school. We had our first. We're the only elementary school with a children's book festival. We're the first children's book festival in Louisiana. I'll give a
Oh,
shout out,
wow.
Twin Oaks Elementary. So we had that in April. We got the second one coming around this next end of March, but
Mm-hmm.
we're on our fourth. My kids on their fourth book, like collectively. So we got a publishing house inside of the school with these young babies. So now I gotta meet them. I have to meet them there, and I'm
Yeah.
almost there because it's in the works. Yep,
Oh, that's awesome to hear. Shout out to Twin Oaks Elementary School. That's EBR Parish, I'm sure
that's
too.
EBR top 10,
And top 10.
top
And
10. It's a lot of
so,
schools.
and that's, again, that is a powerful charge you have to be a leader at your campus, but also a leader on lyricism, and being able to channel all of those gifts to teach the youth. You got to teach the truth to the young black youth. That's another Wu Tang lyric there too.
Amen.
Now, amen, amen. Now, with that though, I want to dive deep and really get analytical to your writing process. So,
Let's go.
Mr. J, when you begin writing, now what has to happen? Do you have to hear the beat first for you to start writing? Is it a mood? Is it the sound? Do you have to have your people around you? What is that stimulates the mind to get you started into your rhythm in the rhyme?
At this point in life, it's a mood. It's a
Okay.
mood. Now, when I get with people like B Nasty, LaDala DiCaprio, sending me these batches of beats, and I
Hmm.
appreciate them because they got me off the bench when I actually stopped doing music from '07 to '09. Like I was, I walked away, and that's a different story. But you know, if I hear a beat that's infectious, then most of the time I'm going to like jump on it. That's like muscle memory. It never stops.
There you
But I
go.
don't need a beat to necessarily write. It could be a conversation. Like I wrote a song for the new Kid Infamous album. I don't even know the name of it, but Kid Infamous just dropped Eat with Lyric Kill, Eat number 3. And so we go way back to the New Orleans days, pre Katrina, with the J Square production. And so something happened with a close friend of mine, um, like grown man conversation, because this is stuff that people don't rap about, right? But
Hmm.
because I'm going through it and I'm sitting on it and I'm like, let me just write about it, and almost like a letter. And I got two verses out, like one perspective, he and I, and the other perspective, like, okay, did I do the same thing to another friend who felt the same way as I felt? That's deep. And so
Yeah.
to be vulnerable like that, with yourself, with the pen, and then have the right beat to fit. Like he sent me something and I've been sitting on it for like 2 months. I'm like, that's the one right there, and I just don't know where I'm going to go with it. But so I'll just be honest, the Holy Spirit like comes in the room a lot of
That's
times,
right.
and you just gotta let it out, and that's just how it goes. So the process is actually really simple. It's harder to write for me than to write on fast order. So a lot of times I get a call, I get an email. It's like, hey, I'm working on this. I'm gonna send this to you. This is what we need. That's easy because it's like a challenge. Because you're like, okay, well, it's a feature, so I'm gonna just show out, and I know what I want to do to stand out on this beat or to address the premise. But
Hmm.
for you yourself from scratch, and I don't cancel a lot of songs. Like when I record a song, most of the time, 95% of the time, I'm keeping it. It might not come out right away, but it's gonna come out eventually because it's mine. I claim it, and I'm gonna put it down the right way. So, other than that, I mean, I used to record my freestyles, and I would walk down the street and freestyle to myself with like a old school tape recorder. This is back in like 98, 99.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so, you know, some of my style is actually kind of freestylish. You know, it's like Pasta Noose from De La Soul. With the battles, you don't want to be so predictable. You might want to drop a line in there that doesn't even rhyme, but it's one for the mind. And you like, wait, but he said that though. It didn't even have to rhyme. You
Hmm.
know,
Hmm.
what he said, gun control means using both hands in my land. It's just
Yeah.
like, okay, it rhymed, but it's just like, and then he comes off, he doesn't hit a four, it's like in threes. And then he just drops one just because I can do that. So that's kind of like the style. It's really free. Now, at one point in time, when I signed the I said mid-major deal, yeah, it was kind of predictable. I had the songs formatted for radio, and then I had songs that I just like, and I can do what I want. But so I can do that. But like right now, I do exactly what I want, unless somebody calls and hey man, I need it just like this, and I can choose. Like all right, I can write it in fours and rhyme slow, get my power wall on. That's my guy.
That's right. And
Yeah.
every word I spit will be a hip hop quotable. That's like they
Yes.
lie. Oh yeah,
Yes.
I know that for sure. Now again, so let me ask you another question.
All right.
So you're a writer, and you know that you have to be a writer, whether it's coming from the brain, even digital writers, right? And I support it all. But for you,
True.
Mr. J, if your pen could talk, what do you think it would say about you as a writer and a performer? If your pen could actually speak and say, you know, I am the pen of the Mr. J, and what do you think it would have to say about you?
I mean, real simple. Just those rappers feed them poison, but I give them fruit. That's it. Like we talk about fruit and vegetables all the time, and many times people hear vegetables and they start cringing, like, "Oh, you're thinking about the ugly legumes," and they might not taste good. They're good for you, but most of the time you can pick a fruit that fits your style and it's pleasant going down. And it might be pleasant to look at too with the colors. So, yeah, I got the fruit, and I mean, it might turn into juice. We might turn into some wine. However, we're gonna do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's coming from me. And then the seeds. So the seeds gonna continue to grow. So no poison out here.
Okay, okay. So
Even
then,
if I give a problem, I'm always gonna give a solution, and that's a vow to myself. Like I thought about that a long time ago, especially when I came back into the
mhm.
game, '09, 2010. I was like, yeah, I can complain, I can gripe, but then I better have another song or somewhere else in that same song with a solution. It can't be one sided. Got to balance it out.
Very true. So now what I wonder, what were the years between 2007 to 2009 without writing like? Did you feel like something was missing in those years? And thankful to your crew for getting you back
Yeah.
on the bicycle. But what was those 2 years like without hip hop? Without you actually, you know, writing, you're just listening to everything else on the radio and streaming. I think started Napster and all that started around that time. So like, what were you doing? And you know, like that relief. I want you to explain that relief once you finally got back in that booth and started writing.
So although I wasn't doing rap music for myself, I was doing a lot of coaching of rappers. I was
Oh.
doing a couple executive things, trying to, be Russell Simmons a little bit on a smaller level. But that itch was still there, you know. Now I also took it upon myself to write for other artists, so singers included. Got some gospel records out there. Just I actually they there was a label who tried to sign me as a gospel rapper. They were like, "Hey, I don't know why you stopped. You can do it like this." And they pressured me harder than the mainstream rap labels, and it got ugly to where I was like, "This is crazy. I don't want to
Hmm.
talk to y'all. Like this is not because that's not my audience. My audience is the people who not in the church. Now, if you want to go to church, I can show you where to go, but you know." I'm a vessel and I'm everywhere, so I'm not gonna put that label on myself. So yeah, I still wrote, but it was different. I challenged myself, to do some other things and to orchestrate some other things outside of what I was already doing. And but it was like a void though. I could feel the emptiness. I went to lots of other people's shows. That's one thing. I was like, when you're chasing and you're focused on yourself, you miss out on a lot of stuff going on around you. So I
Right.
started going to other concerts more often, like my crew members, the Tiger Woods crew with J Double, Mike Swift, Alfred Banks, West B, Blaze, Slangston Hughes, Coke, all them. They because Lyric Hill was doing the hip hop is alive thing in New Orleans. Because now I said hip hop was dead, and they were like, no, hip hop is alive in New Orleans. You can need to come down here and see. Little brother came down. Everybody was coming down,
Mm-hmm.
to see.
Hmm.
And so my guys, they were ripping shows. They were showing up at hip hop alive with the whole crew. And now keep in mind, I was planning and putting a baby in the world. So I had bigger responsibilities, and I was getting into that education thing too, changing up. So I was occupied. it just wasn't a lot of music, but I was cheering for all my guys and just anybody I thought was dope. Like I was like, man, so being around that, you do start like, man, I see how this is going, but they can't do it like you. And you can, they ask for advice, like, what about this? How are we gonna go here? How are we gonna do this? And
Mhm.
then, they ended up winning I don't know, what is it called? It's a magazine out there in New Orleans, Underground Hip Hop Group of the Year. I wasn't even on that record, but
Wow.
I coached a lot. But it's okay, you know. And then once I finally really got back in or got, you know, figured out how I wanted to approach it again, it felt good. I told myself I'm not gonna make music for money anymore. One. Two, I saw it before it happened. We've been on, what do they call it? When iTunes was just iTunes with
Mhm.
music, we were going through CD Baby. So I released like 3 or 4 records through CD Baby that got you digital distribution. It was only like 7 places at the time back in '04, between '03 and '05. We did that. And to see it to where it's at now, it's crazy. It's like embarrassing. Cause like we were shipping physical disc out there, they were still selling for like 12.99, and we'll still get, a decent profit off of it, a profit share. But like now it's embarrassing. And so that's why my website is so important to me. I'm like, I'm gonna drive everybody to Bandcamp to meet. And so if you want to spend money with me, it's cool, but it's optional because me dealing with kids in school and rapping with them and teaching them how to write, I could give a free download as a reward to you. It costs you
Huh.
nothing and you can enjoy what I'm doing. I went on several school tours, and so, I've touched so many young people who don't even know about 85, but it's in my journey. And they're like, man, you different because you a live MC. You rap with us and you respect what we doing. So, that's the purpose of the whole mrj.bandcamp.com. I'm basically taking attention away from all these other places because guess what? Spotify, I mean, they paying, fractions of a cent. It's embarrassing. And
Mhm.
what people don't understand, or the newer people, like you said earlier, it takes a whole lot to record a record and put it out. Like a lot of pain, a lot of money, especially if
Yeah.
you're going to really good studios. And so artists not eating off of that. You might get something decent off of like some concerts or if you got a sponsorship, but I mean they sign into 360 deals. So these guys are, ladies and gentlemen, they're not really paid like they're saying they are. Like
Mhm.
5 of them, and everybody else is chasing. I'm good, and I don't even have to do that. I'm not gonna sacrifice myself. And so I mean, we can, like Jay Z said, we can partner, but other than that, you know, we chilling over here.
That's all right. That's all right. So in 2007 to 2009, you took a sabbatical for consultation and
Yeah,
for support for other artists. That's essentially what you did. Is that you went on sabbatical. You went on to foster the relationships with the people that needed the support, to go into that right direction. And I think that speaks power into the necessity of having a repository of knowledge and being willing to go out and share it instead of saying, you know what, you got to pay me for this, or, you can't have this. This is only for me. But being able to say, you know what, I'm going to find the energy and I'm going to be there for you. I'm going to be there with you. Matter of fact, I'm going to create something so that you can use this to better yourself. And that speaks very true of being a leader of the community, Mr. J. I think
yeah,
that's what I hear when you're speaking, is that it wasn't just you taking time off and away. You really were still in the hip hop realm. You were just being a consultant. You were making certain that other
yeah,
people had the support, they had the steps to go up those rungs. And people don't really realize that to be a leader is to put yourself as a follower and make other leaders. And that's
yeah,
exactly what it sounds as if you did, is that people, gospel even, and earning these awards and being able to build better from there. And then these tours at these campuses and these schools. I mean, that really, as you know, we're both in literacy. So being able to promote literacy in a way that we can understand it best. You know, that griot tradition, it comes from Africa, comes from the homeland, and to remind our souls of the ancestor sounds that we hear, that you know what, you know the rhythm, you can feel this rhythm, you know, and making people feel something. Shout out to you for taking that sabbatical,
Thank you.
and thanking the your people for bringing you back to you so that you can still create, because you still have to create something. You know, you can help others, you can support others, but then turn it around to create something for yourself, so that you can be able to give that impact to the audience. You know, that's profound and very insightful. I appreciate you unpacking that with us, and making that so real and so relevant to make that time. There's no such thing as a coincidence. So in that time frame, you were really truly able to impact others. So you know, you're thanking me. I thank you on behalf of the appreciation that I'm certain that you receive from those groups and people and the kids and the families and the communities that you've been able to touch thus far. You still got a long way to go.
We got a long way to go. I appreciate it, but it's just I think we saw the hints of all of that in 2001. I don't know another artist, well, maybe one or two, but a solo artist who has been as, I guess, humble as myself, you know, for your first event, for you to host 32 other MCs,
Yeah.
that's crazy. And it's but it's cool. It was cool, and we did it 6 more times. Like, I mean, we sent Lyric Kill to Philadelphia, he battled. We sent Bionic Brown to San Francisco, he battled, and we did 3 at the home in New Orleans. And so, it's just, we went to Oakland also. So not only you get to win, you get money in your hand, a free plane ticket, and some studio time. Like, 2001, 2002, 2003, that's a good deal. I mean, we got guys who
Yeah.
really got on, and that catapulted, their whole movement. And so I'm not afraid to say that I actually learned the business through that. I've never booked a club myself. I never had to cut a deal with a DJ. Like, it was all for fun until we really got in and saw what we needed to do. And so, I've always been a crew guy. I've always had, a pretty solid team, around me. And so, it's just, that's just who I am. I can't be mad about it. Sometimes I think like, yo, is it that you didn't blow up commercially? Maybe because you were too humble. Because most of those folks, they're just really self-centered, and that's it. They don't want to hear anything else. They don't want to see anybody else. It's just who's the best? Dylan, 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 Dylan.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
just me.
Yeah.
So that's not me at all. So I'm good with that. But also the other part with '07, I was stuck in a contract that I signed 2005. I had a production contract in '04, solo to do some work with a upcoming independent label out of New Orleans, and then we turned into a real record deal for one record. And I mean, the terms weren't bad, but the only thing was that record needed to be released in order for me to be done with the obligations, a year later. And they held it. So like, we actually had the first video after Hurricane Katrina. Like, literally, it's up right now. I finally put it out for the master to see. But that whole time was hard for me because I'm like, man, we got the record. Everybody moved from the city, but I'm still here. Like, my place was okay. I was in Metairie on the third floor in the middle of an apartment that
Mm.
they raised rent on, but I still had a way. And so I seen New Orleans come up from nothing back to where it's supposed to be, or back to a functioning city. And so me and J Double, we were doing it. So I'm like, well, I can't put nothing out on my name right now. I'm gonna put him out. And so, we took the FEMA money and made some flips. And so he got 3 records out independently, a documentary and a bunch of other things. So I just learned, like I said, helping other people who I believe in, so that they can go to where they want to go. So that's just all part of the plan. But yeah, I was
That's
bitter
right.
in '07 because when it came out, it didn't really come out to my liking. When you don't control things,
Yeah.
sometimes things go wrong. And so being younger, you know, I mean, I was in it. I was kind of hurt behind like some things that occurred during that sequence. But we forgiven. We've had conversations, so I'm okay with them. But I just know what I want to do is actually exactly what I want to do right now, and that's just how it goes. Like if it doesn't fit, then I'm gonna be okay. I walk away.
I know that's right. Somebody in the chat said, "Hey, big bro, Valerie."
Yo, oh, what up? Shout out to the real Val. She got me
Yeah.
straight. I had a little weird health situation over the summer. I was rolling hard too. Like
Mhm.
DC, Dallas, everything was going good. And then, somebody hit that pause button like whoop. And so she been rocking with me hard last couple months. So I appreciate it because I was like, man, we got shows scheduled and an album coming out. How this gonna go? So, she's the best esthetician on the west side of Florida. So y'all better holler at her.
Oh, shout out to Valerie. Shout out to
Hmm.
her and that support, and everybody that's in the chat. But with what you were saying, Mr. J, about this whole thing about making it. Is it
Ha.
about truly having the money? Is it about making that impact? How should an MC, especially the new generation, how should they gauge what it means to actually make it? Because you, my dear, you sound exactly like a man who has it all. You have the family, you have the friends, you have the support, you got the mindset to help others. You're a leader, you are a powerhouse, a producer, a creator, an artist in multi spectrums with that. Making it may not necessarily mean, okay, I got all these gold chains, I got all these cars, and now I got security around me. I think that's not the freedom that you want or creating for self. So, what is a way for people that people need to think about when it means to make it, when it comes to music altogether, no matter
Hmm.
the genre? What does it mean to make it?
I think you have to define it on your own. I mean, first of all, as the general masses see it, they see making it as fame, because oftentimes as individuals, we want people to appreciate, especially artists. Let's just say artists. Artists
Mhm.
want people to appreciate the product that they've derived, produced, right? And
Mhm.
nothing's wrong with that. But when we talk about the business and how the music business or the business of selling art works, it ain't about the art. They take all that out of there, and so all. I mean, obviously, you need to study. It's like you study your craft, but you need to understand what you want out of the business, and what it means to you to truly make it. Because guess what? They'll make you famous, but I mean those 360 deals are horrible. Like the deals back in the day were horrible when physical records and tapes and CDs were selling in stores. Now you don't
Mhm.
have a traditional storefront, so it's like they're like records aren't selling. The streams, somebody else is getting paid from that. But
Right.
if you're with us, then we're gonna take your Nike deal. We're gonna get you the deal, but we're gonna take a bunch of that. And you're with the Waffle House, we're gonna take that. And you on this commercial, we're gonna take that. And so you just putting little pieces together. And then, like you say, with security, you're really not living. So you got to understand, okay, what does quality of life, what does peace look like for you? Because once you famous, then you're gonna taste it. But also, everybody wants a piece of you for a short time. See, back in the day, you could ride out one album for 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
Now, you know, 2 weeks, we off to the next one, and
Hmm.
that's not cool. And it's like basketball too. Like everybody got a basketball goal in front of their house. So for $200, you can kind of get a laptop. Let's just say that you get a laptop. You don't even need a mic, and record something and put it out like tonight, and you could be the hottest thing ever. I don't even want to call names. There was a basketball player. Somebody made a post about the other day and like, yo, I don't even know why I listened to the second single, but I tried to tell them the first single was weird, especially when you got to the second verse. If you listen that far, it's all a ploy. It's all they just scheming. What's gonna be next. It don't matter like the quality. So you just gotta decide on your own how you want to do it. But I will say this: you find a mentor. I got a lot of mentors, and they still doing great things. And so if it wasn't for my, yeah, I've been to a lot of radio stations, and I'm probably in a really terrible place. So, mentoring is important, and that's why I always give back, like honestly, because I don't want to see anybody in a bad situation, but I also want to help them and do the right thing.
Yeah, that mentorship can definitely uh, change the tide, as you could say. Being a mentor and being the mentee, asking for assistance, asking for support. But again, that lasting legacy. Just I'm reminded with the visuals of your sons, and when you talk about Twin Oaks and the elementary tours, when those impressionable children grow into adults and giving those experiences, that's something that lasts forever. And I think if I had to give a definition of making it, I think that is
Yeah,
where success happens, is that you are remembered, how you made somebody feel. The music, somebody telling you, your music made me think about how to make a change in my life, or your music helped me. And I'll be honest with you, I was writing a paper and I put on before TikTok, you gave me an opportunity to listen to it, and I was playing it while I was doing my research and trying to put synthesize my
oh,
articles as I was writing, for sure. And I think, I can't pay you for that, but I think that is a definitive of what it means to make it, is that somebody can use it to make their life better, to create an experience, a timeline, even with a soundtrack. And that's what your music blesses people with, Mr. J, is that opportunity to really capture and encapsulate, decades of rises and falls, pre-Katrina even. You talk about before Katrina, not just before COVID, but Katrina hit, and that was the COVID of its time, where everything was destroyed, lockdowns, shut down, and having to rise back
everything.
up. So, and your music has stayed true to that, TRU and TRUE with that, and that is the essence of making it. So I want to salute you, dear sir, that you continue on
Thank you, thank
in
you.
this crucial message of knowledge and wisdom to give to others, but also to enhance and emphasize self. That is essential to what makes hip hop true to the culture, that authenticity. You can't create or duplicate somebody else's identity, but to pronounce your own and to share it with others so that they too can create their own. And then also, it sounds like you see others' identities. You have shouted out so many people throughout this podcast. You have talked about everyone, to even your esthetician, and you have said it with such love and such grace.
Ha!
Again, that is making it, with your sons, and talking about, that's the tree outside of Disney, and this is this radio station, and making this historical moments, right? You never talked about spending a dime, and yes, studio time isn't free, yet it truly is. You've created a soundtrack of your life, this time capsule, even that you can always go back to. And that, dear sir, is what it means to truly make it. I can safely say, in all music genres and realms, I think that you are definitely the shining example of what it means to be a superstar in its own right. And the money will come later. I feel strongly the money will come later, whatever size money and bank
We
account.
good.
Praying that with you, for you and your family and friends. But I believe that you have already made it into that stardom by being that pillar of your community. Sincerely so.
More
Now,
important, like the money or the opportunity, because opportunities great opportunities bring about lots of change.
that's right. Yeah, and being
Yeah,
prepared for those opportunities too. Yeah.
it's
Oh
good.
yeah.
It's good. I'm just happy that I'm able to, um, move at my own speed.
That's right.
Part of me getting involved in education seriously or answering that call, I was like Marcel P. Black. I was like, in the summer break, I'm going tour. And it didn't work out like that for me. I actually dove deep into the realm of education and ran with it. But But we know we've had opportunities to take some of that time and travel and do the tour and the things like that. Just I mean, like you talked about, just that connection with people. I think the biggest thing that's missing is actually that personal interaction. I still go to Mardi Gras parades and I'll stand in the spot and people either would be at Zulu Mardi Gras Day. People I either used to work with or I know from way back when I lived in the city, and they'd be like, "Yo, when a new album coming out?" Like that's the best thing ever because I'm like, man, they remember when I used to walk the streets in between work or whatever, you know, and giving out the flyers hand to hand, day after day, night after night. So that's what's missing. I'll say that's what's missing in the game and I mean I still got some fly, but just engaging with people, because they remember that. Because sometimes they're like, I don't know, and then they hear like, wait, you, you know.
That recognition, that
Yeah.
there is super special. Well, I got one more
Can I
question
give a
for
shout
you.
out?
Oh, please do. Yes, yes. Shout them out.
Okay. Oh, no, I was like I'm thinking about that, and so a lot of times like we get into these debates about the younger generation and things like that, but my old barber who is in the middle of Baton Rouge are connected to a lot of Baton Rouge street rappers, and I'm really not in that circle, but I know some of them. So I got a haircut one day in the middle of the week around 6 o'clock. I'm leaving. It's raining. A guy, it's like, hey man, you listen to music? He gives me two CDs, no cover on it, but they're pressed. And this was like years ago. Like yeah, might have been who it was.
Okay,
It
okay.
was NBA YoungBoy's brother. And so
Huh.
I knew it was something special about him, by the graphics, because I was like, oh, he like took the NBA logo and flipped it, and I wasn't really like a fan of them. You would have had that old school approach. So I was like, you know what? I got to keep an
Mhm.
eye out for this, whoever this young boy is. I learned more about him because I think he might have been 16 at the time, on the rise. But although the messages he's putting out, it, it's not the same message I'm doing, but I appreciate the spirit of his hustle,
There you
and
go.
it's happened like that a couple times, in New Orleans with people who just gave me a CD, and I'm like, man, and like 2 years later, so it works. People remember that stuff, and so
Yeah.
that effort goes a long way. So shout out to his crew. He's out. I need him to stay out. Tell the kids stop shooting. We'll be good.
Yeah. 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 And that's awesome. That part of history of knowing the
Yeah,
artists before they were, hit that stardom. That's fantastic. That I appreciate that story. So I
yeah,
got I got
yeah.
I got one more question. I have a couple of questions, but I want to honor
All
your
right,
time
let's go.
also, and definitely invite you back into the Hip Hop
I got
Scholarship.
time.
Okay, cool, 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 cool. So,
Yes, ma'am. I'm here for you. So whatever you want to do.
okay, cool. Because I'm listening to a lot of tropes of hip hop, but also leadership, and then this paradigm of making the community rise. I mean, you are a community hero almost, right? That celebrityism is there, especially in a place, Louisiana, Baton Rouge, and New Orleans. That's nothing small. These are major cities that people are able to recognize you, recognize your music, and wanting more from you. So, in my question, and I try to do this symbolism piece and try to get this your
Okay.
creativeness to rise. So, if hip hop were a person, how would they describe y'all's friendship, right, or y'all's relationship? Would it with hip hop and Mr. J, are y'all ride or die? Are you all competitive cousins, or would hip hop call you that cool unk that drops wisdom?
Wow. That's a deep one. You got me right there. Um, yeah, I think I guess the question is hip hop Like a child is hip hop, a man or a grown woman, that's really the question. But um I would have to say I'm a son. I would have to say I'm a son.
Oh, the son of hip hop.
But I'm definitely a direct the roots. And everybody before of De La Soul, Tribe Called Quest, we go on and on and on and on. So yeah, I'm a son, and I'm trying to make the father proud.
Oh, that is a phenomenal answer to have hip hop as the father figure, right? As you being a father figure, but that son listening and taking in that wisdom, gaining that discipline, right? When you do the right things and when you do the wrong things, accepting that chastisement, that constructive criticism, all the pieces of what it means to have that
Yeah.
parent child relationship. That is a very deep answer there, sir. I like that. I like that. Um, Another thing that I want to ask, because since you give so much to the youth, I wonder about your youth. Like, what song was that for you? I know we talked about Crush Groove, we talked about Slick Rick and Dougie Fresh, the show, and so like did were you one of those that Yo MTV Raps, um, Tigger in the Basement, like, were you watching these shows? Were you like, was it like your Saturday morning cartoons? What
Yeah,
was
it
your,
was.
yeah? So talk to me about your youth, because I think what you're doing is replicating that, but to a higher level of creating this this crown, even for someone to adjust on their heads until it's grown big enough to hold it up. So talk to us a little bit about that youth, because that's what makes you go hard for the youth yourself, and I think that there's gonna make me happy to kind of put this whole picture together, because when you come back on the show, especially after before TikTok drops and the Lafayette show, um, all those pieces are real important. Um, so Mr. J did drop off. I'm sure he'll jump back in. And so, with my audience that's still here and in the Hip Hop Scholar fam that's viewing this, you have people like Mr. J that doesn't do music just to put rhymes together. He is a person that takes that rhythm and puts it in the community and ensures that that all of the people are able to feel the lyrics, to understand where he's coming from, and to really create a space of growth, a space of feeling something. And I think that in our society right now, that we are desensitized when things happen in life, when things are occurring, we become desensitized. But thankfully, we have artists like Mr. J that are staying true to the game, to the testament of time. And he has timeless music. He has the wisdom, the knowledge, and the leadership to create something that is lasting and will continue to last and make his legacy felt. So, with that said, I want to give him an opportunity to jump back in to try to end this live show. But if he doesn't come back, he's given us a gift of knowledge that I believe will definitely enhance my studies, and also shout out to all the beautiful people that he shared out, his family, his friends, the loved ones that truly are true to hip hop. So I want to thank Mr. J for being part of the podcast this evening. I want to thank the live audience. Thank you so much. Muchos gracias for being in the building. This podcast is nothing without the people giving us support and being here and learning from it. And we learn from each artist that comes on the show, and we all become better for it. So, with that said, yeah, I am Melanie, the Hip Hop Scholar. This is the Hip Hop Scholar podcast, and definitely we'll see you on the next one. Peace.